Jake and Wyatt, it's week 3 of the playoffs, which I mentioned to a couple of your teammates yesterday. This is nothing new to you guys. You're used to playing this deep in the playoffs. Wyatt, you were with the team last year, but you didn't play a ton in the playoffs. Jake, that's when you'd already kind of started to make your mark, but you can't hide from anybody after what you did the playoffs last year. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to start with you, Jake. When you got to the playoffs, what struck you about how different it was, especially starting with this third week?
Really just the intensity, pitching district games, especially some of the ones I pitched last year weren't too close. So, there's not much energy, not much intensity. And once you get to the playoffs, I got thrown into a game 3. It's just a different feeling, different situation, different intensity. So that's how it's been this year too. And it's a lot more fun getting to pitch in the playoffs.
And Wyatt, you saw that from the dugout last year. You lived it in district this year. What have you kind of picked up the first few weeks of the playoffs, and how different do you expect it to be? Because obviously you guys play Monterey this week. I don't think that's a secret to anybody by now.
We're all super excited each round of the playoffs. Each round further we go, it all gets more intense for us, and it's just a lot more hype for the dugout, I'd say, and just around for everyone. It's more an intensity and a lot more fun to play in than a regular district game.
We've talked before about being a catcher. You kind of have to be the guy that calms the waters a lot. Not so much with Jake. Jake's pretty even-keeled. Obviously, Tim's a little bit different. You have to sometimes get him calmed down, but not just with pitchers, but with everybody. When you go out there for a mound visit and all of you are out there, what is the key at this time of year to make sure that everybody doesn't let things get too big?
Just going out there and telling everyone to trust what they do and that they have enough, that they are enough, and not to worry even if they make an error. Just so I go out there and trust themselves and do what they do.
And Jake, how quickly did you learn that last year in the playoffs, that it is a big moment, but if you just do what you've learned how to do for years, that things will be okay?
Yeah, for me last year, going into it, I'd have some nerves, and then once that first inning, you get the first batter. I remember our Avalon game, ground ball, first batter of the Grapevine game, ground ball out. So I think that really settles you on getting that first out, and getting to that first inning. Both games was pretty quick for me, so that helped us settle the nerves a lot once you get to that first inning.
Which is a good segue, because last week when you pitched, you guys got 2 runs and then you gave up a run. I know this is going to sound weird. Did that almost help you kind of lock back in a little bit to realize that team that had done nothing the day before came out with a little bit more resolve?
We knew that they were a good team. We knew they had to take them serious. We knew they had to have the same intensity. Just, a couple of things didn't go our way, give up a run. So after that, we all locked back in. We all made the plays we needed to and stayed clean.
Because Wyatt last week was like the reverse of the first week.
It was. The first game was a little closer game, and the second game kind of picked up. It was like the 2 games switched from week 1 to week 2.
You guys get a little bit spoiled with your 2 primary guys on the mound. If you score early, is it easy to not? You don't want to let down, but is there almost that hurdle of not letting down when they've got a lead behind them?
Yes, it is. I feel once we get going, we don't ever want to stop, not scoring. We just want to keep hitting the ball and keep putting runs on them.
We can get Jake up there hitting home runs. That
exactly
kind of changes things a little bit too.
Helping himself out.
So we've mentioned Monterey. Obviously, these teams know each other back and forth, forward and backward. Jake, what are some keys against these guys these next 2 nights, or 2 nights and third day?
Just minimize mistakes. They're great at capitalizing on mistakes. That's where we lost at their place. A couple key mistakes, and they capitalized on every single one of them. So we gotta make sure we play clean. Don't give them any opportunities because they take advantage of them.
And as a catcher, Wyatt, they're a pain.
They are.
You have to kind of be on your toes for anything against them. What do you kind of look for against them in these games where they're playing better? They played well against you guys 3 times, but they ended the season on a high note.
Yeah, sometimes they'll play a little bit of small ball, so that's one thing that I always look at when we play them. Runners in scoring position, they're always trying to move someone over, so that's something I'm always on my toes on looking for, so we can always at least get an out, even if it's not getting that runner to move over, get the one that's wanted the ball down.
And I wish I could say this more eloquently. Their pitchers are really good at getting guys out. Whether it's Jackson or Jamarcus and Hector, if it goes to a game 3, offensively, what do you guys have to do against them to make sure you're finding a way to get runs across, because they've been hard to come by against Monterey?
Yeah, I think that we've seen all 3 of them, so we have an advantage going up against them. But I think what we need to do best is hit the mistakes the balls that they leave over the plate and do some damage out there.
What about you, Jake?
I think we just need to stick to what we know how to do. Don't try and do too much because both the times we ended up winning, but it was a little close. We struggled to get runs early, and then we started pressing and trying to do too much. We just need to stick with what we know how to do. Don't start pressing. Just relax and know that eventually, if we're hitting the ball, it's going to fall.
Last thing, we talked about the different intensity and the third round and all that. Jake, I talked to a couple of your classmates actually, and then Ryan, a year younger. Those guys they've been through 4 playoff games now, but this one's a different one. What do you tell those guys about what they have to be ready to do differently now starting Thursday night?
Just settle the nerves, take in what we're experiencing, but settle down, breathe. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and just go, let everyone take care of you, take over, but you need to relax, breathe, and just slow things down. It makes everything a lot easier.